All right, we are back once again. Cold open question for you. What was your hangout spot growing up? Did you have a hangout spot, and what was it?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I like that. Well, before we, move on past this and give you our fabulous intro and launch into this week's topic, I do want to put something out there for the listeners. I want to get you right now, before you walk away or we lose anybody or your attention is elsewhere or you miss it somewhere in the middle because you zoned out thinking about the show. But I want to get this out there. I want you to hear it. I don't want anybody to miss it. Do you love This Podcast Takes Tokens?
Yes.
Maybe you just like it, but enough that maybe you want to get a free sticker. We're going to help you out. Show your love for the podcast and be one of the first 50 to snag an exclusive sticker. Let me tell you how. You got to listen to an episode of the podcast. You're already doing that. Review it. Leave a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, one of those two, where you can actually write out a review. Capture your review. Do a screen grab, screenshot, capture that review, and then send us an email with your screenshot and your mailing address to thispodcasttakestokens@gmail.com. It's in the show notes. And then we are going to send you a sticker absolutely free. You want 2 stickers? Leave a review on both platforms, and then send us both those screenshots. Act fast. This offer ends December 31st, 2004. It's only good through the end of the year. And email us as soon as you post that review to ensure that you get credit for it, because there's only going to be credit given for each review. We will not give double credits. So if somebody else claims your review before you do, I'm sorry. That's just the way that goes. But remember, 1 sticker per unique review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And get to listening, reviewing, and sticker collecting.
I got to tell you guys, these are
collecting, because there are 5 unique designs.
Yes, they are good-looking stickers. Very good-looking stickers. Yeah.
Yep.
All
right.
See you on the other
side.
side.
Beautiful intro music. Your local video store card.
A comic book in your back pocket.
Games with no tutorials.
Music you had to discover.
And drinking water straight from the hose.
These are the things us millennials remember fondly. We are the Jennings brothers.
Join us after the streetlights come on
as we race our bikes from the top of the hill
right down memory lane.
Exchange those quarters, because this podcast takes tokens.
Okay, so today we are going to be hanging out down the street. We're going to be doing the same old thing that we did last week. Not a thing to do, Derek, but to talk to you. We're all right. And for our listeners up there in that state, hello, Wisconsin. So we are, of course, going to be talking about that 70s show, one of our favorite television series of all time.
Absolutely.
Well, I can't say my favorite sitcom. I've got Seinfeld in there, but this is right.
Oh, it's definitely
there.
In my top 5.
So, oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
First aired August 23rd, 1998. Aired on Fox back when I feel like Fox had good television shows. I don't know so much about it now. But had a great cast.
I think one of the longest running sitcoms they had.
Oh yeah, ran for 8 seasons, which is a pretty good length for a sitcom.
That's right.
Made stars out of a lot of the cast. Of course, we have Topher Grace.
Oh yeah.
Wilmer Valderrama, Ashton Kutcher. We wouldn't know Ashton Kutcher, I don't think, if we didn't have that 70s show. Mila Kunis, Danny Masterson, which, he's ran into some trouble and he's in jail now. But I can solidly say that this is a situation where I can separate the person from the character, because I really like the character of Hyde, still like the character. Danny Masterson is, he's done some really bad stuff, and I'm not liking him. I'm liking the character of Hyde. Laura Prepon, Deborah Jo Rupp, Don Stark as Bob Pinciotti, and of course, Kurtwood Smith, my favorite TV dad, Red Forman.
Oh yeah. I think this might be my favorite TV mom and dad.
Yeah. The thing is, with this series, I feel like it was perfectly cast. Like, everybody I feel on there is just cast perfectly. Mila Kunis, you probably know this, but she was 16 when the show started. She lied about her age.
15.
Was she 15?
She was 14 when she was cast.
Wow.
She was 15 when it aired.
Okay, yeah. Jeez.
Yes.
Jeez. Yeah.
Quite the little lie there.
Yes. Yes.
That's crazy. And and looking, I went back and rewatched most of the first season. Mm-hmm. And you can, I see it now. With having a teenage daughter of my own, I see, oh yeah, this girl's 14 or 15. She's definitely a few years younger than the rest of the cast.
Absolutely.
It is obvious now. I didn't notice it at the time, but it is obvious to me now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt the same way, because I've been going back and rewatching this. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I've been going back and checking it out, and I could totally tell. I'm like, oh man, she looks really, really young, and especially you see her now, and of course, she's 40 or something like that. But
40,
but she's very young in that first episode. I feel like the subsequent seasons, she kind of starts to look a little bit older. Kind of matches the age.
I mean, even within the first season, she ages up a bit.
Yeah,
you can see her; she's growing up before our eyes. Mm-hmm. I think because usually the pilot is filmed a couple months before they actually launch into full production.
Yes,
and so between the pilot and even the second and third episode, you can see her kind of jumping in age a little bit there, because it's that age, 14, 15, 16. That's whenever you're really going through those spontaneous changes that we all experience as teenagers.
Just come out of nowhere. So who was your favorite character? So watching this initially, who was your favorite character, and is it the same character now?
That's a very good point to put on it. It does make a difference between watching it originally and then watching it now, as far as who your favorite character was. I think, like most people watching it initially, I identified with Eric the most.
Sure.
But I mean, that's kind of the way the role was designed, was for he's the if you will, the eyes of the audience. He's the one that we all kind of live vicariously through in this ensemble cast. With that said, I think each one of them had their own individual attributes that you would kind of there were certain arcs with Hyde's character that I really enjoyed. Watching him grow and change through the show was very was good. It was fun. It was nice to see. I didn't so much like him in the first season. I thought he was really scuzzy in the first season, and I didn't like the whole thing with him trying to get in with Donna and take Donna for he was just constantly trying to get Donna from Eric, and I really didn't like that. I felt like that's not something a friend would do or should do. And a friend that does that isn't a friend that hangs around very much, or that doesn't stay connected for very long. And the fact that they stayed friends after that is kind of surprising. I mean, for me at least, I know personally I wouldn't stay friends with somebody like that. I couldn't trust somebody like that. And he does the same thing again later with Jackie, kind of. I mean, not really. They're, you know, her
Jackie kind of gets with
Kelso
everybody
thing.
but Eric. So,
yeah, it really does.
yeah.
But I mean, that's just kind of par for the course on these shows. Typically there's a couple of characters that make the rounds in the friend group, as it were, and you know, that's just how that goes, I believe, on a lot of these like ensemble friend casting things. Is because, like, you know, the audience wants to sees these characters growing together and naturally wants to see them, or rather sees these characters growing alongside each other and naturally wants to see them grow together. And so that feeds into, I believe, like the writers' rooms and production and stuff like that. And you get producers that are like, hey, you know, we should really put these two characters together, or at least tease it a little bit, because, you know, that's going to build audience intrigue and people are going to want to tune in and see that. And really, if the chemistry isn't right, it just doesn't work, and it kind of weakens the story. Yeah. It kind of weakens the character a bit. Like whenever she ends up hooking up with Fez, it's like, it doesn't work at this point. Like, it worked really good with
That
Hyde.
was a stretch.
I don't know why. It really worked with them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I liked her with Hyde. I thought that was a really good pairing. But yeah, with Fez to me is somebody, he was a character that he always needed an outside woman to be with, because he couldn't be with Donna, he couldn't be with Jackie. Like, I mean, obviously they put him with Jackie, but it seemed forced, because he never seemed like somebody that was going to be in a long-term relationship with somebody. He was too awkward, too kind of weird, I guess, and it always needed to be these really comical flings that he was in. That's how I felt watching it.
Yeah, like what's the crazy girl that he dated in like the second season? Completely played for comedic effect. But really, like whenever he got with Nina, the DMV employee or lead or whatever she was at the DMV, I felt like that was a good pairing. I kind of liked them together. I'm surprised that ended the way it did, but
that.
Yeah, that was a good one for him, I thought.
So you liked Eric, and so watching it now, who's your favorite?
100% Red.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I think that's to me, I'm watching it again as a father now. When I first watched it, I was not a father. You know, I was growing up. I was in high school, or I was, you know, just out of high school and watching it, because this ended the year after I graduated high school, and so I would see everything. Like, Eric was my favorite until he left, and then it was Hyde, but yeah, Red. Like, I'm watching it now, and I'm like there's a lot of things in there that I can relate to with Red. Now, not necessarily, you know, calling my kid a dumbass or something, but you know what I mean?
But feeling it sometimes. You feel it sometimes. Yeah. You don't necessarily need to articulate it, but we as parents, we're all there. We've been there. He's more boisterous. He has no problem, no qualm expressing how he feels about, you know, whatever the situation is. Because it's not like he's an abusive parent and he's just like outright calling his kids a dumbass. He's motivational with it, is his attempt. But you see him interact with, you know, the neighbor, Don Stark.
Bob.
Bob, thank you. Such a simple name. You see him interacting with like Bob and Midge, or you know, any other adult characters, and he's the same way. Yeah. He's, you know, he takes no garbage from anybody, and he's not going to tolerate anybody's, you know, ignorance or intolerance or whatever it is. You know, he's got no time for it, and I'm there for it 100% now.
And you know, in another character that I gained better appreciation for on this rewatch, that I say on this rewatch. Like I've watched like half of season 1, like, but I'm gonna go through and finish this up because it's just so good. But is Kitty, just rewatching her and how she interacts with Red, and then with Eric, she's still like super loving and everything. And the funny thing is, Red is that way with Lori. And Kitty's kind of treats Lori like Red treats Eric a little bit. Like she kind of sees her as kind of a hussy and all this.
There's that one episode where she goes with the daughter and the neighbor, and they go to that I don't know, it's like a class or something like that with one of her professors, and the professor's like, okay, we're gonna have a moment of honesty or whatever, and he's like, speak your truth to her or whatever, and she's like, okay, and then she kind of goes off on the daughter a little bit, like very candidly, very honestly, not in an aggressive manner, but just like she has a moment of candor where she's like, I think you're screwing around at college, and you need to knock it off. You need to grow up and be an adult, and that was great.
Yeah. And Red's over there like, oh, you need more gas money? You need that? You need money to get to get where you're going? Here's some more. And then, Eric's like, I could use some gas money. And I can't remember what Red said. Oh, he's like, yeah, if a frog had wings, he wouldn't hit his ass every time he bounces or something. It's just so funny. Yeah, the interaction with Red and Eric, I think, is one of the highlights.
Yes.
So there's that one episode where Kitty is going through menopause, and Eric and Red are trying to like figure out what this is and what this means and everything. And they both decide together. Red's like, go get the encyclopedia. So they're like sitting on the couch looking through like what menopause is, and there's that line, it's one of my favorite lines in the whole series, and Red is like, I could have went my entire life without knowing it had a mucous membrane. It's so funny.
And then like even earlier, like I think it's probably like the 4th or 5th episode, they go to the wrestling match. And, like, Red has a good time with them at the wrestling match and hanging out with the kids and everything. Yeah. And towards the end of the episode, they're in the living room and they kind of square off on one another. And Red's like, oh, you want to go? Okay, let's do this. And, like, so then they just kind of play wrestling around and everything. And Eric gets him in the headlock and Red's like, oh, no. And kind of, like, tricks him into, like, giving up and then reverses it on him. And then he's got Eric in the headlock. Yeah. And then there's, like, a moment where he lets him out of the headlock and he just kind of gives him a hug and a pat, and it's like, that's it. That's like, that's their relationship in a nutshell there. Yeah. They may be going round and round, but at the end, they just love each other, and that's all that matters. Yeah. And it's great. That's what works for the show.
There's
in the relationship.
Oh, it is. It absolutely does. There's always that underlying, like, Red will give Eric a hard time, and really, even later as the series goes on, it's the same way with Hyde, because Hyde, becomes really a second son to him and Kitty. Kid. Yeah. And but there's that. It's the episode where Eric or Topher Grace leaves, and Red tells him, he's like, "Be careful. I love you." And he says something else, and Eric kind of pauses. He's like, "Wait, what'd you say?" He said, "I said be careful." And he's like, "No, before that." He's like, "You heard me." And like he doesn't say it again, but it's just it's very
there's like a wink.
Yeah. It's a very touching, I guess, relationship. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it really is for the show.
And then I mean, really, you got to cut it off there because you didn't get into that last season without Eric, and I feel like the show tries to go back and get those laughs again. Yeah. But without him. And it doesn't work. There's moments where and it doesn't work. Because it kind of comes off as mean, like where Red's like they're hanging out with Randy and Donna, and they went to like the fair or something like that, and Red makes a quip like, "Oh, hey Donna, how is it to finally date a guy that can, hit the little bell or whatever on the strongest man hammer thing or whatever it was?" And it's like, "Hey, that's your son that you're talking about there, and he's not even around." Like,
Yeah.
it's just that last season, it felt like they were going for the punchline, but they were missing the heart and the setup for it on a lot of that.
And
I
they didn't
really
even
think
if I remember right, the last season didn't even have. Yeah, it didn't even have Ashton Kutcher in it either, if I remember right. Like him and Eric both come back.
He was there
I think
for the
like
first
last
couple
episode
episodes.
Okay.
The last episode,
Okay.
Yeah, because he was in it for, like, Eric left the end of the season before, and then Ashton stayed on for, I think, 3 or 4 episodes to help with the transition so that they weren't losing two main characters like that instantly, that they kind of had, like, a fade out with him. And then, they both came back for that last episode, which really, I feel like that last season, whenever, like, an episode or two after Ashton, man, I was just watching this all week and I'm stumbling on their names. After Ashton's character, please help me.
Oh, Kelso. Yeah.
Kelso, thank you. Jesus, yes. After, like, a couple episodes after Kelso leaves, I feel like you could just skip to the end, then watch, like, the last episode or two, and the rest of it, you're fine not watching.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad but I mean, like, the rest of it makes up for it so much. It's just so good that I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just lobbing off that last little bit and just moving on with our lives, if you will.
Yeah. It's something like, and I don't feel like it's not really the fault of any of the other cast. I just think that without Eric and Kelso there's just, like, Eric had the heart and Kelso was really just like a comedic just gold mine all the time. And and when you don't have those are like two major pieces of the show, and when you don't have them, like, it's hard for Hyde to, like, not play off of Kelso, and the stupidity he does, and you don't have, that love interest with Donna and Eric going back and forth, and it just, I don't know.
It's just all
you're
punchline.
Right.
No setup, no heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
the first time you watched
Ashton Kutcher and
go ahead.
Before we move on, Ashton Kutcher and being a good, like, comedic pillar for this, probably one of the best physical comedy performances I've seen in a very long time. Especially those first few seasons. He's just throwing himself everywhere, launching over the couch, like whenever Eric's sister came in to visit in town, and he just comes flying through the door and just, like, almost like smacks into her. He comes in so hard and just stops inches away from her. It's fantastic physical comedy.
It very much, to me, is reminiscent of how Kramer was in Seinfeld. It's very much like, he would always, I mean, not the same character and not the same mannerisms, but it's just the spontaneity of everything is just very, I don't know, that's kind of how I felt with it, and even if it was, I don't know if most of the stuff he did was scripted or not. I would assume a lot of it was, but he played it off like it was genuinely, this is just some random thing that he's doing, and he's just like that scene where he's him and they find that keg, and him and Jackie have that makeout place at a house that's abandoned, and he's telling him, like, oh, I'm going to go over here with Jackie and we're going to make out, and it's this great place, the kids are looking for a place to, like, have a kegger, and he's like, it's a great place to, for us to go make out, it's secluded, nobody knows you're there or whatever, and then he leaves, and then everybody looks, like, Donna looks at her watch, and they're all kind of counting, and then he like opens it back up. He's like, I got a great idea, guys. And it's just the way that's delivered. It's spot on. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when you were watching this initially, did you watch it live, or were you introduced to it through reruns or DVDs, or how did you?
Oh, I watched it live. I watched it from the pilot episode through probably 2001 live, and then after that I'd catch them whenever they came out on DVD. But yeah, so like for the first few seasons, it was live, or relatively live. Like I'd set up the VCR and record it and watch it later that night or the next day or whatever. But yeah, it was all live for sure for me for the first couple seasons. I remember the first episode didn't have the intro theme song to it.
No.
They didn't put that in until the second one and all the subsequent episodes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they even changed it a little
interesting.
bit as the series went on.
Yes.
It got a little more, there's a little more instrumental to it and everything.
That's one of my questions. Do you prefer the original or whenever they kind of they changed it
Oh, I prefer the change.
as far as the theme song? Really?
Yeah.
I prefer the original.
Do
I think
ya?
the original
Do ya?
sounded much better.
Yeah, I
Oh,
like
yeah.
the change.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to each their own.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So how about you? When did you start watching it?
Yeah, so
How did you discover it?
I discovered it. There was a public access channel out of Kansas City that was airing reruns of this, and I think like King of Queens and stuff like that. Like from like 9 o'clock at night on the weeknights till like midnight or something. And my stepbrother Luke and we would sit down in the basement, because we both that's our space was the basement, and we would sit down and we started watching that 70s show. And there'd be 2 episodes on every night. I think it was 2 episodes of 70s show, 2 episodes of King of Queens, and then there had to have been like one other episode, like maybe Everybody Loves Raymond or something. But yeah, it was they aired those, and that's how I started watching it. And then I was in high school, and I was at Walmart one day or something, and I would, because we didn't have streaming platforms back then. We didn't have any of that. We just had the video store you would go to. So sometimes I would go to Walmart when I would get my paychecks, and I'd look for movies or whatever. And they had the first 2 seasons. No, they didn't. It was right when the first season came out on DVD. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this. And I picked up, every time they released a new season, I'd pick it up when it came out after that. And that's primarily how I watched it. I think the last season I watched live, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it was always...
I came back and I watched the last
DVDs.
season live. Yeah.
And my friends
Yeah, I
and
think
we
I
would
had-
come, they would come over, and we'd watch those DVDs over and over again, because there was nothing else to do.
Oh, yeah.
In a small town, so there's nothing else
That's
to do.
fantastic.
And
You can just put it on and
yeah.
carry on a conversation and come in and out of the show
Yeah.
and be fine. Yeah, you've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
That's what this is perfect for. It's great background. I love it for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think I got the first, 5, maybe 6 seasons on DVD, and then the last couple I didn't get, just because
Yeah.
I think everything was at that time. Yeah, whenever this last season aired, by the time it went to DVD, everything was starting to transition over to Blu-ray or HD, and then all kind of everything went really fast after that, and then suddenly we're in streaming, and so
Yeah.
I that's around the same time that I stopped picking up new DVDs and stuff too.
I miss that, though. It was so nice to have the DVDs, like you would have a collection of a box set of like I remember I had like on my shelf, I had all the Seinfeld series, I had The Wire, I had that 70s show, like I had, all these series that I really enjoyed. And it was just fun. It was nice. It felt good to be able to like look at your collection and see, oh man, you've got the whole series of Twin Peaks. It's just one box set. You've got the whole, whatever it was. Like, I miss that. So, what did you ever watch? So we watched that show. Go right ahead.
I was gonna say, did you see the box that they did for that 70s show? Like they did like finally like whenever all the seasons were over, they did like a big DVD box set for it.
No, it was, no, I didn't know they did that.
I want to say it was like the van or something like that, and it was all of them together in like a box set that looked like the band.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it's been so long and I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, sorry, it wasn't a van. I was pulling it up as we were talking. It was a vinyl album carrier, like an old if you were to carry like maybe like 24 LPs or something like that around with you, like the little the 9-inch ones or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like that box, like what that would be in.
Okay.
But yeah, so like that's how they did like the whole box set for the season, which is like just perfect.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's cool.
70 show,
that's
thought.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and that's like again, that's in like 2000 mid to late aughts, 2000s, early 2000, 2008-ish, 9, whatever. Whenever they were doing like some really cool box sets, like right towards the end, like right before like Blu-ray and everything popped on the scene, or right as Blu-ray and HD were popping on the scene, there was a lot of cool like box sets being thrown around, and that was one of them that I always thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. I miss those. Like I miss, like I said, I miss having the DVDs on the shelf, but I miss those just complete box sets. Like even with like DVD series, like I think we were discussing with Jurassic Park, like the original trilogy was like the doors to Jurassic Park opening up was the box set, and it's a lost art that we really don't see anymore now that everything is streaming.
Did you ever see Evil Dead?
I've seen. I haven't seen the discs. Is there a box set?
So
that looks pretty good.
There was for just the original Evil Dead, they had a really cool like I don't know limited edition or collector's edition one or something like that. I guess it's a collector's edition.
Okay.
DVD set that came out in like 2001, maybe 2002, and it was the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon, whatever the book was, with the bound skin on it. Yeah. That. It was like bound in like rubber skin as like the DVD case. It was really cool. Like
I have seen that. Our cousin Jack had that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's an awesome one.
Yeah.
I had it for a while. I don't think I have it anymore. I think I sold it, but that was a really cool one.
Yeah. That was my thing. Like I had all the DVDs for that 70s show, and I've since gotten rid of them. And now going back, I'm like, why did I get rid of these? Because they were all they had like every season was a different color, and it looked like very 70s-ish with the lines and the pastels and all that. And now, did you?
And they kept it succinct with the theming all the way through.
Yes, they did. They did. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever watch that 80s show?
I've seen it. Have you seen it?
I've not. I know it only ran for like 12 or 13 episodes.
It's a gem.
But
I think it aired only like 6 or 7, but I went back and I watched it probably like 10, maybe 15 years ago. I had an acquaintance that had a what was it called again? The online drive box something.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, he had like an online drive, and he shared access with a bunch of people, and he had a bunch of like stuff that had been ripped off on DVDs or TV or whatever, and that 80s show was in there, and so I pulled it down and I watched all of them and got to see them all, and man, it's pretty rough. It's not. I saw something recently where they were talking about it, and I think it perfectly encapsulates what the problem was. Is that they were trying to do an entirely new series, but at the same time copy the original series. And really, it should have been one or the other. It should not have been. It should have either been its own wholly independent thing with its own formatting and everything, or they should have done a more direct sequel to the show. Like maybe pulled one or two of the cast members over or something like that. And that might have helped it work a little bit better, but no. Have you seen or heard anything about it?
I've heard that it's about a bunch of, is it college age kids, or is it like just young people, kind of like friends, where they're younger? Okay. And then it takes place in the 80s.
They're probably I'd say like right around 20, working in a record store. But yeah. So it was fun. Have you seen the new one, that 90s show?
Yeah, I have. I don't know. It's not bad.
Yeah. No.
It just doesn't.
I feel
Kitty and Red are great in it. And I love seeing.
Yes.
I love seeing them again. And then having the throwbacks to different like Bob's in there, an episode or two. And,
every time one of the original cast members come in, you're like, oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah. But I don't know. It just doesn't. The kids just don't resonate with me like the original cast did, and
Which is funny because they're like, the original that 70s show. I think one of the reasons why that 70s show really resonated, at least with me, is that I was exactly Eric's age.
Yeah,
within like a year probably, whenever it aired, and so I kind of grew with the character as the character grew, and at the same time, then looking at that 90s show or whatever, all these characters are about the age I would have been in the 90s at that time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's not the same. I don't feel the same connection, and I think part of it is that the characters, like on that 70s show, they were 16, 17, but they were being played by like 20-year-olds. Like they felt older off the bat, whereas on that 90s show, they're being played by like 16, 17-year-olds. They look like they're like 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And it feels like I'm watching a show for kids, not for me. It feels like I'm watching something that's geared towards a 15, 16-year-old. And but at the same time, like a 15 or 16-year-old isn't going to appreciate this show the way we would. And I feel like that's where they're kind of missing the mark. Is it really should be. They really should have brought Donna and Eric back in and did like a family show with them kind of being at the center of it. And they have kids
them
now,
be
and
like
so on and
Red
so forth.
and Kitty, so to speak. And then and then you could pepper in the rest of the cast. I mean, you could even have them live in Donna's old house, and then you've got Red and Kitty next door, and
Bob's
then
house.
they could still. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. But that's the thing.
That's what I would hope for. But this one's just.
Yeah. And I think that's the trap that a lot of these things are falling into now. And this is a trend that I am not really liking a lot. Right now, I feel like there is a lot of push from these entertainment companies, so to speak, TV production companies and movies and stuff like that, they're trying really hard to get money off of our generation by just putting out a sequel to something that we really enjoyed.
Nostalgia.
And it's nostalgia, and it works. I mean, a lot of people are going to see stuff, but I've gotten to the point with a lot of stuff where I'm just like, okay, I'm like, too much of something is not always good, and
Yeah.
I don't know. This is something that I kind of feel that way about with that 90s show, as much as I love Kitty and Red in it, because I do think they are great in it. And it's nothing against the cast that's in the show, but I feel like they are trying too hard to make that cast almost be mirror images of the original cast, and it doesn't work with me. It's just kind of like...
Yeah.
I like the original
It's like
cast.
they took all the cast members and they put them in a blender and spun it around and then spit out this fresh cast that's kind of the same, but not really. Like, the parts aren't right, and it just it does not work right. It just I'm not it doesn't work for me. And it's fine. And I think the other part of it is there are kids, and it's centered around the kid. I'm not a kid, and it feels really weird and awkward to watch teen romance whenever you're 40.
Yeah.
I can watch like that 70s show. They're all teenagers in that show, but I can sit there and I can watch it because I grew up with that. I was that age at that age, so I can look at that and I can be like, oh, this is just like going back in time and hanging out with some friends. This isn't, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that same creep factor that watching that 90s show has. And that's kind of where I sit with it.
Yeah.
Did you know there was another spin-off show from that 70s show?
No, I did not. What was it?
Oh, yeah, there was. It's called, there was a few more unofficial ones, but, we have The Office, came from the UK. Here, they remade it, The Office US version. We have the original in the UK. They did that in reverse. That 70s show went over to the UK, and we have a show called Days Like These. And it is a British remake of that 70s show. So it's set in the 70s.
70s show.
The pilot is basically the same thing, but they kind of like... the characters have different names, but the archetypes are all very much so the same. I haven't seen an episode of it. I've just read like plot descriptions and stuff like that. And from what I can gather, the first episode is basically the same show, and then it kind of like goes off and it follows a more British pop culture or cultural, through line from the 70s. And it's just set in 70s Britain.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Days Like These came out in 1999. That was their version of it.
Interesting. Yeah. Had no idea.
Yeah. No idea. Well, with that, we've reached another checkpoint, my friends. Sharing is caring. Views help a lot. And keep those tokens ready. Until next time.
See you then. This podcast takes tokens is a Clay Street production. All right, now before we get into answering our cold open question, we do want to touch on something real quick. We forgot to mention it before. Earlier in the show. So we are, of course, talking about that 70s show series that we love, and we have decided to kind of change our format on this a little bit. When we were doing Lost several episodes ago, it ended up becoming a very long episode, which we didn't mind, and we hope you all didn't either, but for the sake of trying to keep these episodes a little bit more digestible, we decided that next time we talk about, or as we talk about rather, television series, we are going to split them up into 2 episodes, unless, maybe the series is maybe one season or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, after this show, stick with us through next week, and we will be continuing to talk about that 70s show. Yeah, going on to our cold open question now that we got that out of the way. If you remember me asking Derek, what was your hangout spot growing up?
Man, it kind of changed depending on things, but I'm going to focus on high school. High school hangout was mainly my friend's house. It always centers around the same thing. He always had the latest game systems, and he always seemed to get like newer games, and so we all hung out at his place. And his parents, worked and didn't come home from work until around like 6:30, maybe 7 some nights. And so after school, we could go over there and hang out for like 3 hours or so, uninterrupted. Like just us hanging out. Like maybe 3-4 of us would hang out, maybe sit in the living room, watch a movie, or more often we'd hang out and play games. He had the Sega Saturn, the N64.
Saturn.
He even got the Dreamcast whenever it came out. Like, so he always had new games and game systems, and the 4-player ability of the N64. None of us had an N64, so like the 4 of us could go over there and hang out and play. And really, GoldenEye. Whenever GoldenEye came out, that was it. We were just there for probably 2 years straight, playing GoldenEye with 3 or 4 of us on a screen that was probably 19 inches big. We're all just like as close as we can get to it playing this game.
But it worked.
I can't imagine doing that today, but yeah, it worked. Like it's probably like the size of this TV behind me with 4 of us looking at like these little screens. Man, if I tried to do that today, I don't think I could. I don't think I could play a game in that resolution on a screen that tiny, especially split into 4. So you got 4 different little, but we managed, and we played hard. But yeah, that was that's probably where we hung out the most.
That's great.
And how about you? What was your hangout place?
It really wasn't like you were saying. It changed over the course of time, but for the sake of this episode, during high school, it really wasn't a location necessarily, although I guess maybe it was. So here's what we did. We drove around a lot, and that was something I was rewatching as I was rewatching 70s show. I was watching it with my wife yesterday, and I said, gosh, there was an episode where they were driving around. I can't remember how many episodes are they driving around in, but I looked over her, I'm like, this reminds me so much of when I was in high school. And like we were driving around trying to find people, because we didn't really, some people had cell phones, but like those were like the kids with some money, and so we were driving around trying to find people. You wouldn't know where they were at. And it's one of those things, and I think that's another reason that the show kind of still resonates with me, because I feel like even though that show took place, 20 years before, I was in high school in that age, I still feel like our generation is like really the last generation that was driving around, like, what are you doing on a Friday night? We're going to cruise around. Hey, let's go find Mike. Where's he at? I don't know. Let's go to Walmart. Is he there? No. Is he at home? He's not there. Like, let's just keep going until we find him, And that was
He's in one of 4 places. We'll find him eventually.
Yeah. That's right. And that's exactly, and it really just made an adventure out of the night, because you'd run into other people, and, something would come up that you didn't think you were going to be doing, or whatever. Like you'd go and do donuts in a parking lot, or something like that. But it was just the hangout spot was just wherever it was. And it was our cars most of the time. And we were just cruising around and just doing it. There was a bridge that was, oh man. there was a bridge right outside of town that we would constantly throw stuff off of. Like, we threw chairs from restaurants off of there that we found. We threw an old washing machine off that bridge. Like, there's...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was a good time. Kind of miss those days.
Yeah, we used to cruise a lot, too. Yeah. That was mainly in, like, the summers or on the weekends. Whenever the parents were home, then we go out and we go cruising. That was... Yeah, it was very much the same. Like, we just kind of like pile up into a car or maybe two cars.
Yep.
And drive around, get Slurpees, junk food, meet up with other people. Inevitably, somebody knew somebody who had just graduated high school the year before, maybe 2 years before, and they had an apartment. And we go hang out.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
The creepy older kid that's still hanging out with high school students.
Yep.
And,
had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend whose brother was he was 2 years older than me, maybe 3 years older than me. Anyway, he was a friend of mine. They were brothers. They were both my friends. But he had an apartment, and then we'd go over there and hang out quite a bit.
Yeah.
So let us know
one
what
guy we hung out with, and his. I was going to say there was one guy we hung out with, and his dad would hang out with us. So there was that was a little weird, but an way older guy. Looking back on it now, I'm like, man, that was kind of weird. No, I can't imagine doing that at this age, but so that's what happened. So
whatever. He knew where his son was at.
So. Different time. Yes, getting into trouble together.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know what your your hangout spot was, and let us know in the comments or whatever, and it'd be fun to, hear them. And, we'll read them on the air. We got a couple right now. And the first one was from our podcast or episode that we did on Super Mario Brothers 3. And Will Ford 81, big fan of the show. We're a big fan of him. He said Super Mario Brothers 3 is the first video game that I owned. We got an NES as a Christmas gift from my grandma back when Nintendo was bundling the console with this game. I play the daylights out of this game and could beat the game with ease with warp whistles and much more work without whistles. Kudos to you for that. In more recent years, I could still beat the game with the whistles, but my skills have weakened significantly from when I was a kid playing it every day.
Me both.
The game was the game was bursting with creativity in each and every level, from flying raccoons to Goomba shoes to a demonic sun that demands you run with reckless abandon. You're right there.
Yes.
I may be biased by nostalgia, but I think this is the best Mario game ever made. It's classic NES firing on all cylinders.
Absolutely. I agree 100%, Will.
Yeah, man. That was... I did reply to him that still my favorite Mario game is Super Mario Brothers 3D World. But everything that we know from Mario now was really built on that foundation of Super Mario Brothers 3. And
absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
3 was Mario coming into his own.
Yes.
That was like they figured it out in 1 and 2, and then 3 came out, and they were like, "This is Mario."
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah. And this is what it's going to be from now on.
That is Mario going forward.
Yes. Yep. Next comment was from our episode on Metal Gear Solid, which we both enjoyed very much.
Recent one.
Yes. This is from Dustin Foster, 8489, another fan of the show. If I had the chance to experience any... Oh, here, let me say this again. Our question that we asked, or that I think I posed to you, Derek, was... if you could go back and play any PlayStation 1 game again for the first time, which one would it be? I think we both said Metal Gear. No, you said Metal Gear Solid. I think I said Resident Evil. But anyway, Dustin said, if I had a chance to experience any PS1 game again for the first time, it would be Final Fantasy VII. The incredible feeling of wonder seeing Midgar for the first time, the swelling soundtrack, and the amazing story would be such a joy to experience all over again for the first time. So, yeah, that's good. I have played through Final Fantasy VII. I understand the popularity of it. I get why it is such a revered classic. It just didn't hit with me, and that's okay. Everybody's got their own kind of things, but I know that Final Fantasy VII is like a fan favorite, and it rightfully so. Looking at it on paper, it is a good story. It's just the gameplay wasn't something that really hit with me.
The first time I played it, I enjoyed it. I get that what he's saying. It was an exciting playthrough the first time for me, and I probably would have ended up finishing it out had I not been distracted. Like at the time, I think I played it in like the early 2000s, and I had just gotten a PlayStation 2, and I got this and the PlayStation 2 right around the same time, and started playing this, and then got distracted by the PlayStation 2 and didn't come back to it for a very long time. And then, as you know, if you walk away from a game, especially a game like this, that's 7 discs long or whatever it was, this incredibly vast game, you come back to it later. It's hard to pick it back up and remember where you were and what you were doing and everything. And so I just never got back into it. But and now, and I've never picked it up again because it's so big. It's such a big game. It's a lot to take on, and I just don't have the time to invest 120 hours into a game now.
Right.
It's a daunting task.
I've been playing through Elden Ring just ridiculously for hours. But yes, I understand what you mean. It's rare for me to play a game that's that long anymore. It's hard to do with other commitments in your life. It's better to, well, I don't want to say better, but it's easier to play a game that's a little more focused, I guess. But
I think I'll have time. I feel like this is going to be my retirement time. Like whenever I'm old and sitting around retired, I feel like that's going to be whenever I catch up on all these games.
Yes. So Dustin, you picked Final Fantasy VII. Despite my not being a huge fan of the game, I will tell you that is a good pick. That is a really, really good pick, buddy.
Solid pick.
Yes. Last comment we got, again, from our buddy Will Ford 81. He was talking to us about our very first episode, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Fantastic one.
Yes, he said the first movie still holds up pretty well today. It's a pretty faithful adaptation of the Turtles, borrowing from both the cartoon as well as Eastman and Laird's comics. As a kid, I loved the movie for the corny jokes like Mikey with the turtle wax and the Wheel of Fortune dudes. And as an adult, I really love the scenes at the farmhouse, April drawing Leo, Don and Casey working on the truck, which is a scene we both really liked. Leo watching over a wounded Raph in the tub. These are some great visuals that really showcase the Turtles as a family unit. It also helps ground the film in reality. As much as a movie with ninjutsu practicing reptiles can be grounded, that is. Got you there. Michelangelo remains my favorite, while Leonardo is probably the turtle I most relate to. That's what's great about the Turtles. They all have their own unique personalities, and everyone has their favorite. And he says, great job, guys. This episode kicked shell. Thank you, Will. I appreciate that.
By the way, he goes on, spoilers, the Turtles kill Shredder in the first issue of the comics.
See, I wasn't going to give spoilers, but that's okay. I mean, how the comic's like 30 years old, so I guess if you don't know that by now, that's your fault, not ours. But
it's not a spoiler at this point. It's a behind the scenes, if you will, or a I don't know what you would call that.
Yeah. Yeah, we enjoyed that episode. We enjoyed that movie. It was good. We'll have to go back and see if Secret of the Ooze is as good.
Does it hold up?
Yeah. We'll see.
it?
Hey, it's
That might be our anniversary episode.
got vanilla ice in it. It's got to hold up. So. Anyway, that's our comments for today. We love you guys. Appreciate you listening. Like Derek was saying earlier at the beginning of the episode, send us, write us a review and take a screenshot of that.
Send us a screenshot.
Send us a screenshot. This podcast takes tokens at gmail.com. And first 50, we will get you all stickers sent out. Pretty nice stickers. So next week, we're going to keep talking about that 70s show. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.